झालं आहे का?
Hi all, good evening. Let's start now. Let me know once my screen is visible.
आवाज नको करू हा.
Okay, is it visible? स्क्रीन दिख रहा है
Yes
क्या?
ना.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So we are done with all the topics which we wanted to cover as part of SQL. Now, so we understood how to store and manage the data, and उसके बाद हमने देखा how to read data in different ways. अभी क्या सीखना है? How to get this data into a data thing. So this third part we will see today. जो भी डेटा हमने यहाँ से रीड किया, we will see how to get that data into a data frame. And उसके लिए we will we will use this Jupyter notebook as a new user interface. जैसे अभी तक हम वर्कबेंच एज अ यूजर इंटरफेस यूज कर रहे थे क्योंकि हमें एसक्यूएल का कोड लिखना था. अभी हमें क्योंकि पाइथन का कोड लिखना है, पांडास के फंक्शंस यूज करने हैं, we are using this Jupyter notebook as our user interface to connect to your database. So what's the very first thing we have to do here is we will need to import the required libraries, and which is SQL Alchemy library, and we will also require this part. Okay, so you need to install this SQL Alchemy like you
झालंय
install
का?
all the other libraries, and then you can import it over here. Now, once you have these libraries imported, what's the very first thing you have to do is to create a connection with your database. MySQL Workbench में सबसे पहले हमने क्या किया था? We had established a connection with your database server. Same thing, only the user interface is now changed, is now different. That is your Jupyter notebook. And what we will do is we will establish a connection with your database server from here. And to establish that connection, we have a function called create engine of this SQL Alchemy library. And this create engine function accepts a connection string which includes
Sorry, sir.
MySQL, your database name, plus PyMySQL. PyMySQL is an engine defined inside this SQL Alchemy library, which will help you establish this connection. Colon double slash, you have to give your username. कौन सा user आप use कर रहे हो to connect to your database. So in our case, it's root.
Root.
Colon, you have to give a password. So my password is system1234. In your case, whatever you have given while installing MySQL for now. Actual project पे काम करेंगे तो whatever the credentials will be given by your DBA team, credentials जो आप workbench में connection establish करने के लिए use करोगे, same things you have to give over here as well. Root system1234, that is my password. @ we need to give a host name here, which is localhost in our case. Okay, and lastly you need to give a port number, that is 3306, which is the default port number we have for MySQL. 3306, you can get it from here. And lastly you need to tell which database you want to access, you want to use. Okay, let's just, so this is the connection string we have to write, we will use to establish a connection with MySQL database from here. Let's pass this to one variable called engine, and when you print it, this means we are now connected to your MySQL database. So here we need to understand three things. एक है how to read your SQL table
मैम
in data.
ये रिपीट करो ना थोड़ा सा, मतलब क्या ये
I'll just give you the syntax. I'll just write the syntax over here. ठीक है, तो ये जो connection string है, we can using create engine function of SA library, SQL Alchemy library, and connection string will be MySQL plus PyMySQL. It will remain same. दूसरे database पे काम करोगे, so this will change. Okay. colon double slash your username colon password at the rate host name you have to give colon port number slash database name you want to use. Okay, so this will be the syntax of connection string here. Okay, now as we have connected to your MySQL database, we need to understand three things here. Ek, how to read an SQL table into a data frame, how to get a query output into a data frame, and third thing, how to save your data frame into a database table. Okay, so सबसे पहले see read SQL table. Okay, so we do have a function called read SQL table in this pandas library, which will help you read any SQL table and get its data into a data frame. So let's say if I have to read this employee table, the first parameter will be your table name, and second thing you need to pass here is the connection name, that is engine in our case. So let's just pass this to an variable called df, and if you'll go and print this, whatever employee table we were using till now throughout our classes, that employee table is now here into a data frame. कोई भी टेबल आप ऐसे using this read SQL table function, you can read it into a data frame. So if you have this department table, data will be here. Okay, so that's how we can get a table's data into a data frame. So for example, if you have a separate data engineering team, they are gathering the data and they are just sharing a table name with you, that data set you have to use to build your model. सिर्फ एक टेबल है जिसे आपको यूज करना है to build your model. So what you can do is you can simply read that table here and proceed with the further data science project steps. Now, what if you have to read SQL query? ये हो गया how to get a tables, how to get an SQL table into a data frame. Now, what if I have to get any query output here in a data frame? Okay, उसके लिए the function we have is read SQL query, and here the parameter you need to pass is your select statement, select query. So it can be any select statement. So if I'll say limit 10, second parameter you need to pass to this function is engine. Okay, so this will help you get the output of this query here in a data frame. कोई भी क्वेरी का आउटपुट जो है आप यहाँ पे डेटा फ्रेम में लेके आ सकते हैं with the help of this read SQL query function. Now we do have a third function called just read SQL, which is actually the combination of both of the above, which accepts a table name as a parameter as well as a query as a parameter. तो read SQL को जो है आप table name भी दे सकते हैं and query भी pass कर सकते हैं. Second parameter in this case also will be your connection name itself. So whatever the student table we were using, that's here into a data frame now. And same way, you can pass a query to this read SQL function. So कोई भी select statement. So let's say if we have to get the output of this join query into a data frame now, take it pd dot read SQL or read SQL query as well. Anything will work. Now it's a multi-line query, so you have to add it inside triple quotes. Okay, and again the second parameter will be your connection name, that is engine. So let's if you try to print this DF now, whatever the join query output we were getting, that is here in a data frame. Okay, तो ऐसे आप कोई भी select statement का output जो है यहाँ पे data frame में लेके आ सकते हैं. Now, once you have got your data, once you have your join query and you have got that output into a data frame here, then you will be performing your feature analysis. And let's say you got to know that I do not require these department IDs in the output, because anyway we are reading this department ID twice. Also, after doing the feature analysis, just for an example, we conclude that department ID is not useful for my model, for building my model at all. Okay, so what we will do in that case, we will just remove this from the select statement of your query, and now your data frame will be with only these columns. It will not have your department ID field. Okay, so this will be again as good as reading data from your database itself. Okay, इसीलिए this is very easy to update your select statement to remove the unnecessary columns after your feature analysis. Now this is the data frame you have got after doing the feature analysis. Then you may perform some EDA if needed. And once you are done with your EDA part and you have your final data frame, you may have to save this into a database table. And उसके लिए the function we have is this toSQL function. So data frame का function है toSQL. Now if I have to save something into a database table, what all things I would need? I would need a table name. कौन सी table में मुझे ये output को save करना है? So let's say any name will give final DF. Second parameter you need to pass here is your connection name. And thirdly, as we can see, जैसे ही हमने डेटा को डेटा फ्रेम में कन्वर्ट किया, these index values gets assigned. Okay, so if you do not want to add those index values to your table, you can just say index is equals to false. So this particular function will help you write a data frame into a database table. Now if you go and query this particular table, that is final DF, you will have your join query output saved in it. Your, not the join query output, actually your final data frame. Okay, now what if I'll execute the same thing once again? Same cell को अगर फिर से execute करेंगे, we will get an error which says table final DF already exists. Here we are trying to create a new table to insert data which is there in your data frame. Now क्योंकि इस नाम की table already आपके database में present है, we are getting an error. So to resolve this, what we have to do is we can pass one more parameter to this toSQL function which says if the table is already there in the database, what do you want to do? Okay, either we can choose to append the data, that is your union all, or we can choose to replace the data with the new one, that is your truncate and load. Okay, so if I say append, execute, go and check your output here. So simply the result of a data frame have now appended to the existing table, existing final data frame table here. That's what your append says. या फिर it is equivalent to your union all. It is as good as doing union all. Existing data पे बस आप नया data append कर रहे हो. Now if you do not want to append the data, instead you want to delete which is already there in the database table, जो already है उस सबको delete करना है, and then you just want to
Replace.
reload your table with a new data you have in this data frame. So the value we can pass to this if exists parameter is replace. So when you say replace, this will just delete entire data from this final df table and insert all the new records which you have in your data frame. Okay. So just three things. टेबल को कैसे रीड करना है? सो वी हैव टू ऑप्शंस, रीड एसक्यूएल टेबल फंक्शन या फिर जस्ट रीड एसक्यूएल फंक्शन. The first parameter to both of these we can pass a table name and second parameter will be your connection name. Second thing, query output को कैसे रीड करना है डेटा फ्रेम में, उसके लिए again two options. One is your read SQL query function and second is your read SQL function. To both of these functions, we can pass SQL query as the first parameter and second parameter will again be your connection name. And once you have got your data into a data frame here, you can proceed with further steps of your project. जैसे feature analysis हो गया, then you realized कि these two columns, I can still drop these two columns. We will just modify our query and get the required columns in a data frame. Then we will perform EDA, and if needed, and if you want to store that final data frame into a database table, we will have to make use of this toSQL function. So we are just getting this data into a data frame to use it for your feature analysis, to perform your EDA part, and then lastly your model building. Okay, all the other steps of your data science project. Okay, now you can, did we see how to store a query output into another database table? हमने देखा क्या? एक क्वेरी आउटपुट को एक टेबल में कैसे सेव करना है वो हमने डिस्कस किया था क्या क्लास में?
No.
नहीं. Okay, so a simple thing, if you have to take a backup of the table, किसी टेबल का बैकअप लेना है, मान लो जैसे एम्प्लॉय टेबल, and I'm going to make some changes to it, and before making changes to my data, I want to take backup of this. So I won't be creating a separate backup table and then insert all the data you have in your employee table. So there is a simple way. We can just copy the output of this query into an new database table. And for that, we have to write create table statement. So create table, let's say employee backup as select star from employee. So simply whatever will be the output of this query we are getting, that will be stored into a database table. So if I'll execute this, okay, this table is already there in a database. So let's just change a name. Okay, so it says 24 rows affected. Now if you go and check this employee backup one table, it will be very similar to the output of the select statement or to the employee table we already have. ओके, तो सेम वे हम किसी भी क्वेरी का आउटपुट जो है एक टेबल में सेव कर सकते हैं. सो लेट्स कंसिडर दिस ड्राइंग क्वेरी वी हैव रिटन, और अगर डेटा इंजीनियर्स दे वांट टू सेव अ क्वेरी आउटपुट इनटू अ टेबल एंड just share the table name with the data scientist, what they'll do, create table as your select state, the join query we have written. Now if we'll execute this, what is the error we are getting? Okay. What this error says, okay, this error is not, huh, huh. What this error says, duplicate column name department ID. Okay,
Same
here,
error use alias
sorry,
for the table name, different table. We can
sorry,
use
sorry.
alias to change the name.
हाँ, तो यहाँ पे क्योंकि डिपार्टमेंट आईडी जो है आपका 2 बार हमने लिखा है सिलेक्ट में, एंड नाउ वी आर ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट अ टेबल हियर, इट वोंट अलाउ यू टू हैव 2 कॉलम्स विद द सेम नेम. हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा, इसे कुछ और नाम देना पड़ेगा. Otherwise, you can just remove that column and then your table will be created. So if you now go and check this joins OP1, it will have your join query output. Okay, so anything is fine. You can just have your join query and get that query into your Jupyter notebook, get its output into a data frame. या फिर you can just save this join query output into a table and read that table into a data frame. Okay, so it is up to the requirement what exactly you want to do, what approach you have to use, but anything is fine, anything is possible. You can either read a query or read a SQL table into a data frame. Okay, clear everyone? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. So this was all about how to get your data into a data frame from SQL, from a relational database. Now let's talk about a non-relational database we had to see, that is MongoDB. Okay. Does anyone know anything about MongoDB?
It
No,
is
ma'am.
No,
not
ma'am.
relational database.
We
No,
don't-
ma'am, nothing.
We know nothing.
Good. Okay, clear. Okay. MongoDB, let's just try and compare it with your MySQL database. Okay, so MySQL is what kind of database we have? It's a relational database, whereas this MongoDB is a non-relational database. Now, why do we call SQL as a relational database? SQL को
Because
relational database
we
क्यों
can
बोलते हैं?
connect many tables, get the output with help of joins.
Correct. Okay, so in case of MySQL, the very first thing why it is called as a relational database is because we store your structured data in the form of tables or relations. Okay, so these tables are also referred as relations in case of MySQL, and that's why it's, and all the tables as we have seen, they are related to each other in some or other way, and that is why MySQL is referred as a relational database, whereas this MongoDB is used to store your unstructured data in the form of JSON files or we can say dictionaries. Okay. Now, what do we understand by data being unstructured? So let's say this is the employee table we have, and we need to have all these columns in it. And उसकी पहली record है 1001 Rohit, salary and location. I want to insert this second record here with all these details, and I also want to have her contact number added to the table. ओके हमें क्या करना है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ इस सेकेंड एम्प्लॉय का कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर हमें यहाँ पे ऐड करना है. व्हाट विल बी द प्रोसेस इन केस ऑफ MySQL टेबल? MySQL में क्या करना पड़ेगा? इवन इफ यू वांट टू हैव कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर फॉर द सेकेंड एम्प्लॉय ओनली, हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा?
नया कॉलम ऐड करना पड़ेगा.
We have to modify the table structure to have a contact field. Alter table run करना पड़ेगा to add this particular column, and then you can insert contact number for this second employee. And in that case, what happens with this first employee का contact number available नहीं है तो क्या होगा? Database will populate null over there, which is not required in case of MongoDB. Okay. So for now, let's call it a table in MongoDB. So these all are the columns, and a row here is your dictionary. Simple dictionaries जो आपने अभी तक सीखी हैं, those dictionaries we are just going to save them into a MongoDB database. Okay, and here a row of your table is a dictionary, is a separate dictionary, and all those dictionaries can have a different structure, can have their own number of keys and number of values, key and value pairs. हर एक डिक्शनरी का स्ट्रक्चर जो है वो यहाँ पे अलग हो सकता है. That's the first thing which allows us store our unstructured data into MongoDB database. So when we say unstructured, we are basically not defining any structure to this table. So when we created a table in MySQL, what we did, what was the table definition we wrote? Create table name along with the columns we are going to have, as well as उन columns में कौन सा data जाना चाहिए, किस type का data जाना चाहिए, that also we mentioned. But we will create a table here in MongoDB. We will just give it a name. हम सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक नाम देंगे उस टेबल को. We won't be defining any structure for it, and that is why you can have any number of keys and values in that particular table. That's the first thing allows us to store our unstructured data. Now, what if I have to insert this third record wherein I want to insert my salary value as string value? Will it give us any error? Okay. It will also not give us any error because as we have not defined which all columns we are going to have, we also have not defined उन columns में किस type का data जाना चाहिए. So again, this particular dictionary, this particular row of your table can have salary value stored as a string instead of a integer. Obviously, this integer and string will be treated differently, but this won't give you any error, which is not the case with your MySQL. अगर आप कोई column define करते हैं and we are defining its data type, we have to follow that thing. You cannot insert any string value into a integer column. Okay. Now, if I have to insert this fourth employee with all these details, and for him, contact column, I want to insert his email address as well as his मोबाइल नंबर. ये दोनों वैल्यूज मुझे एज अ कॉन्टेक्ट उसका सेव करनी है. कैन वी डू इट इन MySQL टेबल? MySQL के टेबल के एक कॉलम में हम कभी भी दो वैल्यूज दे सकते हैं क्या?
Not possible.
Not possible, right? But can we have a nested dictionary like this?
In dictionaries, this is possible.
है ना? We can have this kind of dictionary to store phone या फिर mobile number, whatever the field name you have to manage value, right? So these nested dictionaries allow you to insert two values for a single key. That ultimately means एक column के लिए दो values जो हैं आप यहाँ पे save कर सकते हैं. So all these things makes it possible to store your unstructured data into a MongoDB database. Now, what was the user interface we used to write SQL queries? That is your workbench. And lastly, we also used this Jupyter notebook as an user interface because we wanted to get that data into a data frame. And the query language we used here is SQL. So in case of MongoDB, we do have an user interface called MongoDB Compass, which looks like this. Okay. Again, this is the user interface. Here is the list of databases available. Workbench में जैसे था वैसे ही. And if you expand any of these databases, you will be able to see the tables inside it. And if you will click on any of these tables, you can directly see your data. There is no need to write up any query here. So there are three options we can visualize our data. This is your very first way or visualization option. Second will be in the form of dictionaries, and third will be in the form of table. Okay, so these are the ways just to visualize the data we have stored in a MongoDB database. This doesn't mean we are storing it in three different formats. We are just storing it in a dictionary format. डिक्शनरी के फॉर्मेट में या जेसन फाइल के फॉर्मेट में ही आप आपका डेटा स्टोर कर रहे हो. सिर्फ और सिर्फ जब हम देख रहे हैं, जब हम रीड कर रहे हैं डेटा को, वी आर रीडिंग इट इन अ टेबल फॉर्मेट. नाउ इफ यू सी, you have these direct options over here. So this is to edit the document, copy करने के लिए, clone करने के लिए, delete करने के लिए. Okay, so you can perform all the CRUD operations here itself. रीड कर सकते हैं, अपडेट कर सकते हैं, डिलीट कर सकते हैं. You can filter your data. You have this option over here. So this user interface has many direct options, but to access, but to communicate with your MongoDB database, can we use SQL query language? SQL का यूज कर सकते हैं क्या हम? अगर ये नॉन रिलेशनल डेटाबेस है, can we use SQL? No, right? SQL is a domain specific language. आप उसे non relational databases के साथ use नहीं कर सकते. So here we have to use different Python functions to communicate, to interact with your MongoDB database. And as we are going to use Python, we will be using this Jupyter notebook itself as our user interface. So we won't be using these direct options to perform our CRUD operations. Instead, what we will do is we will learn few functions which will help us perform CRUD operations on a non-relational database. Okay, clear on the basics everyone. MongoDB क्या है वो समझ में आए सबको? In short.
Yes, ma'am.
Now here also क्योंकि हमें डेटाबेस के साथ कनेक्ट करना है, first thing you will need to do is import different libraries. That is import PyMongo, and we will have to import this pandas also. And second thing we will have to do is again create a connection. जैसे MySQL के साथ कनेक्ट किया था वैसे ही we will be connecting with your MongoDB database, and उसके लिए the function we have is Mongo client function, and the connection string you need to pass over here is this MongoDB, your database name, colon, / your host name, colon, the port number, which is 2701, default port number you have. So let's just pass this to an variable again, client, and if you will print this, what it says, connect is equals to true. That means we are now connected to your MongoDB database. Now let's just understand the terminologies we have to use, we use in case of MongoDB. So what is the overall structure of your SQL database? SQL database की अगर आप बात करें तो उसका ओवरऑल स्ट्रक्चर क्या होगा? You will have multiple databases जिसमें से आप कोई एक डेटाबेस यूज करेंगे या फिर you will create a new database which will have different tables in it, and your table will have rows and columns. Same is the case with your MongoDB database. You will have different databases. उसमें से कोई एक database हम use करेंगे, and the equivalent thing to this table here is called as collection. Okay. So we will have different collections in MongoDB database, and the difference between these tables and collections is tables are your structured entities, whereas collections are your unstructured entities. That means टेबल जब आप डिफाइन करते हैं, जब आप टेबल को क्रिएट करते हैं, you define its structure prior to storing data into it. टेबल की स्ट्रक्चर पहले डिसाइड होती है and then we can insert data into it, which is not the case with these collections here. कलेक्शन अगर हमें क्रिएट करना है तो हम बस उसे एक नाम देंगे and that would do the job for us. That would create a collection for us in which we will be able to store any kind of dictionaries here. And the row of your MySQL table is referred as document here. A dictionary is referred as a document of your collection, and that's why keys can be compared with the columns of the table. Okay, so these are the terminologies. One second. We will be using in case of MongoDB database, and here we need to understand basic CRUD operations. What all CRUD operations we have seen in case of MySQL? कौन से CRUD operations? The same operation we have to see over here also. Okay, so the very first thing we have to understand is how to create a database. Database कैसे create करें, उसके बाद we will see how to create collection here, and then we will see how to insert data into it. That is adding a document to your collection. Then we will see how to read the data, update it, and lastly delete it. Okay, so these are the crude operations we have to see in today's session. So the very first thing we will see, that is your create database. Okay, and the syntax we have to use to create a database is your connection name, that is client in our case, in square brackets, your database name. Okay, so if I have to create a database called college, let's say, we can pass this to an variable called db, and if you print it, you'll be able to see one more parameter added to the output string here, that is your database name. Now if you go and check in MongoDB Compass, so we will use this MongoDB Compass just to see the results of our actions. Okay, now if you go and reload this data here, we cannot see college database created, right? Even if you use the function to list database names, that is list database names, client dot list database names you have to do. Which all databases we are able to see? Admin, company, config, local, and org. So only this company database is created by me. All the others are your system databases, as we had in MySQL also. Now, why we are not able to see this college database created is because in case of MongoDB, your database does not get created until and unless you add a collection to it. यहाँ पे आपकी डेटाबेस तब तक क्रिएट नहीं होती है जब तक आप उसमें कोई कलेक्शन को ऐड नहीं करते. So let's understand how to create a collection here. And the syntax to create a collection would be your database name, that's DB, square brackets, a collection name. तो यहाँ पे we are just giving it a name. We won't be defining any structure for it. जैसे हम टेबल को स्ट्रक्चर डिफाइन करते हैं वैसा कुछ भी नहीं करेंगे. There won't be anything called a structure in case of MongoDB database. So let's create a collection called student here. So if you pass this to a variable called COLL and print it, one more parameter we can see in the output string, that is your collection name. Now, even now, if you go and compass and reload the data, we won't be seeing our database created or our collection created. Even if you want to use a function to list these collection names, that is list collection names, what is the output we are getting? An empty list. That means your collection itself is not yet created, and that is why your database is not created. अभी तक आपकी कलेक्शन क्रिएट नहीं हुई है और इसीलिए डेटाबेस भी क्रिएट नहीं हुई है. एंड व्हाई इज योर कलेक्शन नॉट क्रिएटेड येट? यस, बिकॉज हियर इन केस ऑफ MongoDB कलेक्शन तब तक क्रिएट नहीं होती है जब तक आप उसमें कोई डेटा को ऐड नहीं करते, जब तक आप कोई डॉक्यूमेंट को इंसर्ट नहीं करेंगे. योर
मैम यहाँ पे
हाँ ये जो DB है COLL इक्वल टू DB ऑफ स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट में स्टूडेंट, वो जो DB है वो वेरिएबल है क्या? हाँ वेरिएबल है, COLL वेरिएबल है, DB वेरिएबल है, अदरवाइज यू हैव टू यूज द नेम्स इटसेल्फ. ओके ओके. नाउ क्योंकि हमारी कलेक्शन अभी तक क्रिएट नहीं हुई है, वी आर डेटाबेस इज आल्सो नॉट येट क्रिएटेड. और कलेक्शन क्यों क्रिएट नहीं हुए हैं? दैट इज बिकॉज हमने उसमें कोई भी डॉक्यूमेंट या डेटा इंसर्ट नहीं किया है. So now let's understand how to insert data into your MongoDB collection. And उसके लिए we have two functions. One is your insert one function and other is your insert many function. So this insert one will help you, or it is used to insert a single document. Whereas this insert many function is used to insert multiple documents. जैसे इनका नाम है वैसे ही इसका यूज है, insert one मतलब it will help you insert a single document, whereas insert many मतलब अगर हमें एक से ज्यादा documents को at a time insert करना है तो we can use this insert many function. So let's understand this insert one function first, how exactly it works. So the syntax to use this insert one is your collection name dot insert one, and here you will have your dictionary, that is your key and value. Simple जो आपने dictionaries अभी तक लिखे हैं, those dictionaries we have to write, we have to pass to this insert one function here. Okay, so let's try and insert the first record to the collection. So our collection name is saved in a variable called COLL dot insert one, and here I'll insert the record of first student. So let's say roll number 1001, student name I want to keep it as Rohit. I also want to have this key as gender, and then let's say location, and the location value is Pune. Okay. Normal dictionary, we are just writing it with your insert one function. Now when you execute this, go to your MongoDB Compass, reload the data, we will be able to see this college database created. If you expand it, you will be able to see a student collection created inside it. Okay, and here is the first document we have just now added. This also we can see in three different ways: dictionary format and a table format. So we will use this table format for our class so that it would be easier to read the data. Okay, but you can visualize your data anytime in three of these formats. Okay, now even if you execute these functions to list the database names and the collection names, database name की list देखेंगे तो we will be able to see this college database in the output, and if you execute, if you'll try to list out the collection names, we will be able to see this student collection in the output here. Okay, so all these three things are dependent on each other in case of MongoDB. आपकी कलेक्शन तब तक क्रिएट नहीं होती है जब तक आप उसमें कोई डॉक्यूमेंट ऐड नहीं करते, और आपकी डेटाबेस तब तक क्रिएट नहीं होती है जब तक आपकी कलेक्शन नहीं क्रिएट होती है. ठीक है, तो थ्री ऑफ देम आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन ईच अदर while creating them. Okay, so this is how you can use this insert one function to insert multiple dictionaries, multiple documents to your collection one by one. So let's say 102, gender is female, location I want to insert as Mumbai, and execute this, go to Compass, we'll be able to see this second record, second document added to the collection. Okay. वैसे ही you can just have any number of keys and values to the dictionary here. So 103, if I have to have only these three things for this dictionary, for this for this document of my collection, I can have them. I can just write this much of the dictionary, execute it, and see the results. What we are able to see, if you see here in this format, your third document will just have three of these keys and their values. But as we are seeing it in a table format, just to see the data,
No
it
field.
says no field. That means this location field itself is not there in this third document. Okay. So if you have to add another document to the collection, which has all these keys. So let's say I also want to have contact now. Contact key add karni hai. That is just 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it will also be accepted. If you go and check, the contact field is only there in this fourth document. So for the all the other three, it says no field. This contact field is not there in all these three documents. It's there only in the fourth document. Okay. Same way, you can also have a nested dictionary to store your data. So 105, any name, gender, and now in this contact, you want to save your email address. That is, let's say akash@gmail.com, any value, comma, your mobile number. Okay, so this is how you can write your nested dictionaries to store two different values in a single key. Okay, now if you go and execute this and see the results in MongoDB Compass here, ये fifth वाला document अगर आप देखोगे तो contact field says it has two fields. इसे अगर expand करेंगे तो we will be able to see an email address as well as the mobile number. Okay, if you look this in this format, contact will be seen like this. If you will expand this, we will be able to see sub keys. We can say email and the mobile number here. Okay, so that's how we can insert any unstructured data to your MongoDB database, and that's how your insert one helps us insert a single document at a time. Now, second function we have is this insert many, which will help you insert multiple records at a time, multiple documents at a time in a collection. So your syntax will remain same, that is collection name dot insert many. The only thing here is, as we will be passing multiple dictionaries, we will pass them as a list. So this should be the list of dictionaries like this. Okay, so let's try this out. Your collection dot insert many. Here you have your very first dictionary using this insert many function, जहाँ पे हम we will have these values. So student roll number is 106 and name is this. Okay. Now second dictionary also we have to pass. So simply add your second dictionary over here, which will have roll number 107, student name as this. Now, is it necessary to have same structure of these two dictionaries here? इन दोनों डिक्शनरीज का स्ट्रक्चर सेम होने की जरूरत है क्या?
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
Not.
Your concept remains same, that every dictionary can have its own structure, even if you are inserting one document at a time or you are inserting multiple documents at a time. So here for this particular record, I also want to insert my location value. I can do that, execute this, see the results. Two of the documents are now added to the collection, 106 and 107 यहाँ पे देखेंगे तो here also it will be same. Okay, so that's how your insert one and insert many behaves. And unless and until we add at least a single document to the collection, your collection does not get created in case of MongoDB. और अगर डेटाबेस भी आपने नया ही बनाया है जिसमें आप ये नया कलेक्शन बना रहे हो, आपकी डेटाबेस भी तब तक क्रिएट नहीं होगी जब तक आपका कलेक्शन क्रिएट नहीं होता है. Understood everyone? Able to follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is, I hope this all is very at least easy for you all because you already know Python and now you know at least the basics of SQL. तो हम दोनों को बस combine कर रहे हैं. We are just implementing SQL concepts, database concepts using Python functions. And by the time you will also realize that function names भी बहुत similar हैं, functionality similar है. The way we implement that's also similar. सिर्फ और सिर्फ हम क्या कर रहे हैं, डेटाबेस की कॉन्सेप्ट्स को यूजिंग पाइथन इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं, नथिंग एल्स. ठीक है. नाउ सेकेंड ऑपरेशन, सेकेंड क्रूड ऑपरेशन वी हैव टू सी इज हाउ टू रीड दिस डेटा. एंड उसके लिए वी हैव टू फंक्शंस अगेन. वन इज योर find one function and second is your find function, just find. Okay. So this find one, again we have underscore one, that means this find one will always return you a single document, whereas this find function will always return you multiple documents. In which case, which all documents we will have in the output, we will discuss it in detail. But your find one will always return you a single document. It will never return you more than one document in any of the cases. जबकि find function से है, function से जो है आप एक से ज्यादा documents को read कर सकते हैं. So let's just see this find one function first and how it behaves. So the syntax to use this find one function to read data of your MongoDB collection is your collection name dot find one. Here we need to add any filter condition if you have to have any. कोई filter condition अगर देना है तो that will be here in a first dictionary and second dictionary will have your select part. So when I say select, उसका मतलब है कौन से keys आपको output में चाहिए, all of that thing we have to mention in your second dictionary. First part, your filter condition will decide which document will be there in the output, whereas your second part will decide उन डॉक्यूमेंट्स की कौन सी कीज और उनकी वैल्यूज आपके आउटपुट में दिखेंगी. नाउ obviously there will be two scenarios. One will be without filter condition, क्योंकि filter condition देना mandatory नहीं है. We know that we can simply write your select star from table name statement where condition जरूरत है तो add करनी है. If you have to read entire data, we can simply say select star from table name. So both the things are possible. One, to use this find one function without filter, and the other to use this find function with filter condition. Now what exactly happens when we use this find one without filter criteria? So this find one returns you the first document of the collection. Yeah, फिर we can say that if you have to access, if you have to read the first document of the collection, you need to use, we can use this find one without any filter condition. Whereas if you keep a filter condition with this find one, it will return you the first matched document. So when I say this, इसका मतलब है जब आप फाइंड वन फंक्शन यूज करते हैं और कोई फिल्टर क्राइटेरिया देते हैं वहां पे डेटाबेस गोस एंड स्कैन्स ईच डॉक्यूमेंट हियर एंड जैसे ही इट गेट्स द फर्स्ट डॉक्यूमेंट satisfying the filter criteria we have given, it will return you the output. It stops scanning there itself. जैसे ही उसको पहला डॉक्यूमेंट मिल जाता है जो आपकी फिल्टर को सेटिस्फाई करे, it stops the scanning and gives you the output. That's how your find one behaves. So let's see and try to read the first document of the collection. उसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? Collection name dot find one, and here we will not give any filter criteria. As of now, we will skip writing your select part, so that is possible here. And we'll see what happens when we do that. So here this blank dictionary ka matlab hai we are not giving any filter condition. So if we'll execute this, which document we are able to see in the output? That is the first document of the collection, roll number 101. Okay, to find one, when it is used without filter, it will help you read the first document of the collection. Okay, and if you observe how many keys we are able to read here, roll number, student name, gender, location, along with this object ID. So this object ID, अगर आप यहाँ पे observe करें, you have object IDs added to all the documents here. So this is some sequential number. If you see, it says 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2E, 2F. So you can consider this as a primary key of the collection, because whenever you will add an document to this collection, all those documents will have a separate, a unique object ID associated with it. So this is a auto generated field, और जैसे ही कोई document आप यहाँ पे add करते हो, this field gets attached to the document. Now if you do not want to have this object ID in the output, या फिर you want to specify your select clause, कि आपको यहाँ पे लिखना है कौन सी कॉलम्स आपको आउटपुट में चाहिए. So in case of MySQL, we just had one option. अब हम बस लिख सकते हैं कि कौन सी कॉलम्स हमें रीड करनी है, कौन सी कॉलम हमें हमारे आउटपुट में चाहिए. But here we do have two options. We can either specify our inclusion projection or specify our exclusion projection. And when I say this, इसका मतलब है we can specify which all keys we want to see in the output. Otherwise, we can also specify which all keys I do not want to see in the output. Okay. अगर आप लिखते हो I want to see this and that key in the output, that means दूसरी keys आपको output में नहीं दिखेगी. And if you choose to specify which all keys you do not want to see, उनके अलावा जो भी keys हैं आपके document में, all of them will be there in the output. And now, for example, I do not want to have this ID in my output here. ID column मुझे output में नहीं चाहिए. तो उसके लिए what you have to do is, how to specify your exclusion projection is, just say ID is equals to 0 here. Okay, and this will help you exclude that ID field from the output. So 0 specifies your exclusion projection. 0 मतलब I do not want to see this field in my output. Okay, same way इसके अलावा ID के अलावा भी कोई कॉलम अगर आपको नहीं चाहिए आउटपुट में, let's say I do not want to see this location field also. So what I'll say, location is equals to 0. What is happening? When we say location is equals to 0, we are able to see all the other keys and their values in the output here. Okay. Now, if you go and say, I want to exclude ID and include location. Inclusion projection के लिए we have to specify one for those keys which we want to include. So in this case, I am trying to exclude this ID and include the location value. Now if you observe the output here, which key we are able to see? Just the location. That means when you say location is equals to 1, that ultimately means all the other keys is equals to 0. I just want to include this key in my output. तो जो कीज हमने ऐड किए हैं उसके लिए we can specify either 0 or 1. So if you are specifying your inclusion projection, location 1 अगर करते हैं तो we are just getting this location field in the output. We won't be getting any other key except ID in this case. 19th cell जो लिखा है उसमें क्या क्या आएगा आउटपुट में? You will have your object ID and location value. That is because ID is something which will be there in the output by default. वो आपके आउटपुट में होगा ही होगा. If you do not want to have that ID column, you have to specify 0 for it explicitly. तो ID के केस में that will be there in the output by default. If you do not want to have, you have to specify 0 for it. But बाकी के जो keys हैं जो हम ऐड कर रहे हैं उस डॉक्यूमेंट में, उस डिक्शनरी में, उसके लिए we can either write 0 or write 1. So this 0 specifies exclusion projection, whereas 1 specifies inclusion projection. Exclusion का मतलब है I do not want to see this key in the output. Inclusion का मतलब है I want to see this key in the output. But so here you can combine inclusion for other keys with the exclusion of ID. ऐसा कर सकते हैं, but you cannot combine inclusion and exclusion for the keys that we have added. So when I say this, उसका मतलब है location is equals to 1 or roll number is equals to 0. ऐसा आप नहीं लिख सकते. You can have this ID is equals to 0, but this will give you an error which says cannot do exclusion on field roll number in inclusion projection. That means this one is your inclusion projection. Here we are saying I want to include this location in the output, which ultimately means I do not want to see other keys in the output. And इसीलिए यहाँ पे अलग से exclusion projection लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Okay, so for the keys which we have added, either choose to write 1 or choose to write 0. So in which case, what to use in which case? So let's say you have 20 keys in a document, जिसमें से हमें सिर्फ 4 keys को read करना है. If you have to have only 4 keys in the output, what's easier? 4 keys read करना है मतलब 16 keys को read नहीं करना. So what is easier in this case, to specify 1 for these 4 keys or to specify 0 for all the other 16 keys? Easy क्या होगा? Specify 1 for these 4 keys. So we'll go with this inclusion projection. But वही अगर आपके पास 20 keys है and you want to skip 4 keys, उसमें से सिर्फ 4 keys को आपको read नहीं करना, you want to read all the other 16 keys in the output, what we will do is specify 0 for these 4 keys जो आपको exclude करनी है. So it depends on how many keys are there in your document and how many you want to have in the output. We will go with either inclusion or exclusion projection, and that's how your select behaves in case of MongoDB. Understood everyone, this inclusion and exclusion projection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is in all of these cells, we just tried reading the first document of the collection and different keys of it. Because we use this find one without filter criteria, we were able to read the first document of the collection. Now we'll see what happens when we will use this find one function with the filter condition. So again, your collection name dot find one, and let's say my filter condition says gender value is equals to F. Okay, मेरा filter criteria क्या है? That is gender is equals to F. So if this find one returns the first matched record, which document will be there in the output now? कौन सी document मिलेगी हमें output में?
102.
102, which is the first document satisfying the filter we have given here. Okay, same way, if you go and say location value should be Mumbai, फिर से कौन सी document read होगी? 102, which is again the first document satisfying the criteria we have given. Okay, so no matter how many documents you have in the collection satisfying the filter, find one हमेशा सिर्फ और सिर्फ पहला डॉक्यूमेंट रिटर्न करेगा जो आपकी कंडीशन को सेटिस्फाई करता है. ओके, नाउ ये हो गया हाउ विल यू गिव अ filter condition using equals to operator. Apart from these, we can also use these operators to specify a filter here. So this GT $GT stands for greater than. Similarly, we can use this GTE, which stands for greater than, equals to. we do have any which will be not equals to LT, which is less than LTE, which is less than equals to. We also have this in operator, same as your SQLin, which will be used to specify multiple possible values. Okay, so all these operators can be used to specify a filter condition over here. So if my filter says my roll number value should be greater than 104, how do you use it is collection name dot find one, your roll number, and it should be greater than 105. Okay, so execute this, you will be able to get this record 106, which is the first document again, which is satisfying the filter we have given here. Okay, same way आप बाकी के भी use कर सकते हैं. So when you replace this GT with GTE, what will happen? You will get 105 वाला document. If you replace this GT with LT, क्या होगा?
101.
Okay, कौन सी डॉक्यूमेंट आएगी अभी इसमें?
101.
101, because that's the first document satisfying the filter. क्योंकि हमने क्या बोला है 105 से लेस होना चाहिए आपका रोल नंबर. ओके, सेम वे आप कोई भी इसमें से कोई भी ऑपरेटर यूज कर सकते हैं टू स्पेसिफाई अ filter criteria. Now in all of these cases we have just given a single filter condition. How to combine multiple filter conditions? SQL में कैसे किया था?
Use and to combine multiple.
यहाँ पे भी we have to use this and or operator. उसके लिए how do you use and over here is, so if you have to say again your collection name dot find one, and you are looking for a record where roll number value is 103 and student name is Neeta. Okay, so your filter condition would be roll number 103 comma student name is equals to Neeta. सिर्फ comma देके आपको add करना है multiple filter conditions here. Okay, if you'll exit
इक्वल टू की जगह मैम कोलन.
Excelling करना पड़ेगा.
Okay, so we are able to read that document 103 जहाँ पे roll number का value है and student name is Neeta. Now if I change this, if I say roll number should be 103 and student name should be this, we will not get anything in the output. That is because when we are combining your filter criteria using a comma, that says all of these conditions should be satisfied by a document. जैसे एक रो से सारी कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई होनी चाहिए थी, वैसे ही यहाँ पे क्या हमारा रिक्वायरमेंट है that all of these conditions should be satisfied by a single document of the collection, and we do not have any document wherein roll number value is 103 and student name is Snehal, and that's why we have got this 0 records in the output. तो ऐसे आप मल्टीपल वेयर कंडीशंस को कंबाइन कर सकते हैं with and operator. Now how to specify or? Okay, so if I have to get a document where either roll number value is 103 or student name is Nehal, and the syntax for that would be your collection name, find one again, and now what filter we have to put? We have to combine all these filter conditions as or. So let's just have this or here, colon, and here in a list you will have all of your conditions. So your condition is roll number is equals to 103. This is your first condition. So this should be inside dictionary. And you have one more condition which says your student name should be Neha. So this will help you combine both of these conditions using OR. So this says either my roll number should be 103 or my student name should be Snehal. And now if you will execute this, which document we will be getting in the output?
103 and जिसका नाम स्नेहल है
103 only, because which function we are using? We are using this find one function. What it returns? It returns a single document, right? So it will either return where your roll number value is 103 or will return where your student name is Snehal, whichever document is the first document satisfying the criteria as we have given here. And now in this case, if you'll execute this, we will get this 103 in the output. If we will change this to have student name as Ronita, अभी कौन सी डॉक्यूमेंट आएगी आउटपुट में?
सेम आएगा.
नो,
102 आणि 103
आणि नाही येणार ना, मी तेच सांगते. फाइंड वन काय करतंय?
102 येणार फक्त
हा, फक्त 102 येणार, कारण that's the first document satisfying either of the criteria we have given. Okay, it is not because of the or happening, it is happening because of your find one function. Find one क्या करता है? It returns the first matched document, and that's why we have got only 102 here. ओके तो ऐसे आप मल्टीपल वेयर कंडीशंस को कंबाइन कर सकते हैं यूजिंग और एंड के लिए तो प्रेटी सिंपल, यू जस्ट नीड टू कंबाइन मल्टीपल कंडीशंस यूजिंग अ कॉमा हियर. अंडरस्टूड एवरीवन?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now second function, we have to read data from MongoDB collection is your find function. Yes,
मैम एंड के केस में दोनों कंडीशंस अगर सेटिस्फाई हो रही है तभी वो डॉक्यूमेंट मिलेगा, राइट?
करेक्ट.
नहीं तो फिर अगर नहीं मैच हो रहे तो क्या होगा?
इट रिटर्न्स नथिंग, राइट? एसक्यूएल में क्या होता है, अगर आपकी कोई रो नहीं है जो सारी कंडीशंस को मैच करे तो व्हाट डू वी गेट इन द आउटपुट? 0 रिकॉर्ड्स, राइट? वैसे ही यहाँ पे भी हो रहा है. अगर ऐसा कोई डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है जो सारी कंडीशंस को सेटिस्फाई ना करे जो आपने एंड से कंबाइन करी है, इट विल रिटर्न यू नथिंग. ओके
Ma'am, how to use multiple conditions? And or.
That's what we discussed, right?
Like and or, we can combine that multiple times.
Okay, that like that. So if you say this or, so these two will be considered as or. So if you want to have something in and with this, student name Ronita and gender is equals to female, तो कैसे करेंगे? Gender is equals to female. We'll just add this thing using a comma here. So now these two will be ANDed with each other and this will be ORed with each other. This. Understood?
Got it.
Number repeat.
Okay. Okay. So मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ? And use करके हमने कैसे combine किया? We just added multiple conditions in a single dictionary, right? This means and. This means student name should be Neeta and roll number should be 103. अभी एंड और को दोनों को एक ही क्वेरी में एक ही फिल्टर में ऐड करना है तो कैसे करेंगे? सो हियर इफ यू आर सेइंग और and here you have given a list of filter conditions. So in this case, what will happen is roll number 103 or student name Ronita and gender is equals to female. Okay, so this is okay. This behaves as roll number 103 or student name is equals to Ronita and gender is equals to female. This is what we have written here. Got it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, next function we have to see is your find function. And as we know, this returns multiple documents, multiple records. The syntax will remain same. The syntax to use this find will remain same. That is your collection name dot find, and here you will have your filter condition अगर देना है कुछ तो, and second dictionary will have your select part. Again in this case also we will have two scenarios. One will be your without filter condition and second will be with filter condition. Okay. Now what will happen if you use this find without filter criteria? और हमें पता है कि this find function can return multiple documents और उसमें हम कोई भी filter नहीं दे रहे हैं. So what this will do is it will return all documents of the collection. You can simply relate this find without filter with an SQL query we had, that is select star from table name. Okay, so जैसे इस केस में हम सारे रिकॉर्ड्स को रीड कर पा रहे थे, वैसे ही when we will use this find without any filter condition, we will be able to read all the documents of the collection. And then when you add a filter criteria, what can be the output of this? What is the possibility? क्या हो सकता है इसका output?
इतना satisfy हो उतना है.
It
It will return all matched documents. तो ऐसे सारे documents जो आपकी filter को satisfy करें, वो सारे documents आपके output में दिखेंगे in case of find with filter criteria. So here this can be equivalent to select star from table name and the where condition of your SQL statement. Okay, so let's use this find function without any filter criteria. And as this find gives you multiple documents, we have to print it as a list of dictionaries. And if you do so, see how many documents we are able to read? All the documents of the collection from 101 से लेके 107 तक. These all are the documents we have here. Okay. Now, if you do not want to have this ID in the output, you do not want to see this ID in the output, what we will have to do? क्या करना पड़ेगा?
ID colon 0.
Okay. इसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? You have to add a second dictionary wherein you will say ID colon 0. So it will help you exclude this ID from the output here. Now, if I just have to have a roll number in the output, how to specify select for it? आउटपुट में मुझे सिर्फ और सिर्फ रोल नंबर देखना है, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे?
रोल नंबर कोलन 1 करेंगे.
That's it. What will happen if we'll do this? We will get this object ID also in the output because that's again a auto generated field. तो हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा, ID colon 0 करना पड़ेगा and roll number colon 1 करना पड़ेगा, and then only we will be able to see only the roll number values in the output. Now if I say I just do not want to see this contact field in the output, मुझे सिर्फ contact नहीं देखना, बाकी सारी keys मुझे output में चाहिए, ID नहीं चाहिए और contact नहीं चाहिए. What we will do in that case?
ID colon 0 करेंगे और contact colon 0.
What we will have to do, contact को भी exclude करना है और ID को भी exclude करना है. So we will be able to read all the other keys and their values. So that's how we can make use of this inclusion and exclusion projection. Okay, and this is your find function without filter criteria. जब आप without filter use करते हैं find को, you will be able to read all the documents of the collection. Now, what if we will add a filter as location value should be equals to Mumbai? What all documents, which document will be there in the output? Find where, find function where location value is Mumbai. कौन से और कितने डॉक्यूमेंट्स आएंगे आउटपुट में अभी हमारे?
102 107.
102 and 107. Two of the documents where your location value is given as Mumbai. If you say gender is equals to female, we will be able to read all the documents where gender value is female. Okay, this is pretty simple. जैसे SQL का आपका select और where statement work करता है, वैसे ही this find function works. Okay, now if you have to get the data from your MongoDB collection to a data frame, तो ये जो भी डेटा आप रीड कर रहे हैं उसे अगर डेटा फ्रेम में लेके आना है, if you have to get this output into a data frame, what we will have to do is, again, SQL का data frame में कैसे लेके आए हम? We had a select query and then we read the table and then we got its data into a data frame. वैसे ही अगर ये वाला data आपको data frame में लेके आना है, so what you have to do, what you can do is you can just pass this to a variable, some variable called data1, let's say, and you need to use this data frame function of pandas library and say data frame and pass this data1 variable to it. So now if you will assign this to a variable called df and print it, whatever the data we could read from the MongoDB collection, that is now converted into a data frame here. Okay, so this is how we can get MongoDB collections data into a data frame. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So again, we have seen two scenarios, find with and without filter criteria. Filter criteria नहीं देंगे तो सारे documents read कर पाएंगे. Filter criteria देंगे तो we will just be able to read the documents which are satisfying the filter condition. Now, let's say if I have to read these documents wherein your roll number values are 102, 4 and 6. 2, 4, 6 ये तीनों डॉक्यूमेंट्स मुझे रीड करने हैं, तो आपकी फिल्टर कंडीशन क्या होगी?
We can use or, multiple ors.
और भी लिख सकते हैं या फिर we can make use of this in operator wherein we will say roll number should be in So here you need to pass a list of values 102, 104 and 106, whatever the roll numbers you are looking for.
वहाँ पे रेंज भी पास कर सकते हैं क्या?
नो, उसके लिए we have to use between operator. Range, you cannot pass range with this in sorry. क्योंकि we are using this find function, we have to print it as list. So list of data. Okay, so you'll be able to get all these three documents in the output here, and that is your second CRUD operation, which is reading data from a MongoDB collection. Okay. Third thing we have to know here, third CRUD operation we have to know is how to update the data. उसके लिए फिर से हमारे पास दो functions है. One is your update one function and other is your update many function. Okay. Update one फिर से it will help you. It is used to update a single document, whereas this update mini is used to update multiple documents. Okay, so let's see both of them one by one quickly. So the first function we have is this update one. जैसे इसका नाम है, it will help you update a single document, and the syntax to use this would be collection name dot update one. अभी अपडेट करना है मतलब क्या है, एग्जिस्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट की कोई की और उसका वैल्यू हमें अपडेट करना है, वैल्यू हमें अपडेट करना है. एंड इसके लिए द सिंटैक्स वुड बी फर्स्ट डिक्शनरी will have your filter condition कि आपको कौन सी डॉक्यूमेंट अपडेट करनी है, and in second dictionary you will set a value to that column, and here also we have this same operator called as set. They set a key and its new value. Okay, again with this case, in the case of update one also, you will have two scenarios. One will be your without filter condition and other case will be with filter condition. Without filter क्या होगा, we will be able to update the first document of the collection. So simple, जो document हम find one की help से fetch कर पा रहे थे, find one without filter हम read कर पा रहे थे, the same document we will be able to update with the help of this update one function. Okay, without filter criteria. And where we will use this update one with filter criteria, it will help you update the first matched document. Okay, so if you are clear on this find one and find function, there shouldn't be any confusion which document we are updating with update one in these two scenarios. Okay, so let's try and update the first document we have to change its location value to Chennai. Okay, पहला जो डॉक्यूमेंट है उसमें लोकेशन का वैल्यू हमें अपडेट करना है फ्रॉम पुणे टू चेन्नई. तो our syntax would be collection name dot update one. As we are trying to update the first document, we won't be giving any filter criteria. And यहाँ पे हमें क्या सेट करना है, we want to set a value for which key, we want to set a value for this location key, and वो value क्या है आपका चेन्नई. Execute this, go and see the results over here. First document will be updated to have location का value as Chennai. Okay,
नल को अगर अपडेट करना है तो हाँ
करेंगे. Okay, now ये हो गया how to update a value of an existing key. Now what if I want to add a new key in an existing document? Existing document में अगर नया key add करना है तो we do not have any separate function. The same function will help you do that. Let's say ये जो पहला डॉक्यूमेंट है उसी में अभी हमें क्या करना है, कॉन्टैक्ट की को ऐड करना है. सो दिस की इज नॉट देयर इन दिस डॉक्यूमेंट एज ऑफ नाउ. अगर मुझे इसे ऐड करना है, I'll be using the same update one function, no filter criteria because it's the first document, and simply give that new key and its corresponding value. It will simply help you add a new key in an existing document like this. Okay, same way अभी इस 106 के लिए लोकेशन का वैल्यू हमें अगर अपडेट करना है एज पुणे, व्हाट वी विल राइट हियर, क्या करना है, वी हैव टू अपडेट लोकेशन फॉर स्टूडेंट हैविंग रोल नंबर 106. So what will be our filter criteria? Here we will see roll number is equals to 106 and I want to set a location value as Pune for her. That is your update one with filter criteria. Okay, now when you when your filter condition is location is equals to Mumbai, which document we will be able to update? The second document. So let's try and update the contact field for this second document. तो उसके लिए आप क्या लिख सकते हो? Filter criteria you can write as again your collection name dot update one. Filter criteria can be location is equals to Mumbai, so that it will help you update that access that particular document. ये आपका हो गया filter condition. And you want to set हमें क्या करना है, we want to set a value what column we want to update. We are trying to update here contact field का हमें contact key हमें add करना है with some value here. So here you will have your contact and its value, anything, it can be 2 3 4 5, whatever the value you want to set here. Okay, okay, so this will help you update this particular document, the second document, to have a contact field. तो ये update one function हम यूज कर सकते हैं विद एंड विदाउट फिल्टर क्राइटेरिया. विदाउट फिल्टर यूज करेंगे तो फर्स्ट डॉक्यूमेंट अपडेट कर पाएंगे. व्हाट ऑल टाइप्स ऑफ अपडेट्स? either you can have a new value to an existing key or you can add a new key to the document using the same update one function. और उसी अपडेट वन फंक्शन को अगर आप किसी फिल्टर कंडीशन के साथ यूज करेंगे तो दैट अपडेट वन विल हेल्प यू access or update the first matched document. Clear?
तो मैं
Okay.
हम बस करते इतना ही.
बाकी कर लेंगे.
अयो, that's
बहुत ज्यादा हो
सिर्फ
रहा है.
थोड़ा सा बचा है.
बहुत सैचुरेटेड किया.
मैम काफी हो चुका है.
सर दर्द होने लग गया.
इतनी जल्दी? आप लोग डेटा साइंस का पढ़ाई कैसे करते हो बताओ मुझे. That is the very difficult than this ना.
डेली थोड़ा थोड़ा करते हैं मैडम.
फिर भी क्लास तो 2 hours की होती होगी.
नो मैम 1.5 hour.
That's it.
यस मैम 8 से 9:30.
सर से पूछ लूं मैं.
यस मैम.
Yes, sir.
I thought we could complete it today.
मैम नहीं बहुत
Okay.
ज्यादा हो रहा है.
कल करते ना मैडम.
हम कल
चलेगा.
थोड़ा ज्यादा.
Sorry.
मैम कल ज्यादा ले लें।
हाँ नहीं अभी कुछ ज्यादा बचा ही नहीं है. We were about to finish but still yeah we would need at least half an hour. तो ठीक है कल connect करेंगे. Meanwhile I'll share the video to install MongoDB to get it installed and practice whatever we have taken today if you can. Okay, let's continue tomorrow. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.